If we can get started, since this is a joint meeting, we do typically elect a chair for the overall meeting. We can first, I guess, start with a quorum for each of for both the Plan Commission and the Zoning Board of Appeals. So, Kate, I don't know if you want to go first or.
Yeah, sure. I'll call the roll, Violetta.
Okay.
Chair Collin,
Present.
Member Zordon,
Present.
Member Puctel,
Present.
Member Macaulay, absent. Member Aravalo, absent. Member Deakin, absent. Member Miranchev.
Present.
Okay, we have a quorum, 4 of 7.
Okay, I will call the roll for Plan Commission. Draper. Commissioner Halleck.
Here.
Commissioner Hugo.
Here.
Commissioner Johnson. Commissioner Linwall.
Here.
Commissioner Westerberg. And Commissioner Westerberg, you are muted.
Sorry, here.
There you go. And Chair Isaac.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum that is 5 out of the 7. Okay, we have no minutes to approve. Those are still being worked on. So the next item would be election of a chair for the joint meeting. So if either of the chairs want to.
I would like to nominate Chair Cullen of the ZBA to be the chair of the joint meeting.
Thank you so much. Thank you. You'll have to help me, Megan, but I'm sure we'll be fine.
No problem.
Right.
Is there a second for that?
I'll second.
Okay.
And actually I have to do the roll call since we are on Zoom for this. All right, so I'll start with the Plan Commission. Commissioner Hugo,
Yes.
Commissioner Westerberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Linwall,
Yes.
Commissioner Halleck,
Yes.
and Commissioner Isaac.
Yes.
5 out of 7.
Chair Collin,
Yes.
Member Zordon,
Yes.
Member Miranchev,
Yes.
Member Puctel.
Yes.
Perfect. 4 of 7. Unanimous, Violetta.
Okay. Good evening. This is a public hearing of the Zoning Board of Appeals in the City of Evanston Plan Commission. The zoning ordinance empowers us to hear references from the City Council, petitions from other parties for variances and special uses, and appeals from the decisions of the zoning administrator. We hear testimony from those in attendance and then make formal findings of fact based on the evidence presented, which consists of testimony and exhibits, and on our knowledge of the community. We then either make a determination or recommendation to the City Council. Testimony is taken under oath. Although we do not apply the strict rules of evidence and procedures, we ask that you keep your testimony relevant to the proposal as it relates to the standards contained in the zoning ordinance. When you testify, please state your name and address for the record and put your name in the chat so that we can identify you later. Each case will be introduced by staff and a list of documents will be read into the record. Then the applicant will either give an explanation of the proposal. After that, those who wish to testify as either proponents or opponents of the case will have the chance to do so. And then the applicant will have a chance to respond. Any case not concluded at tonight's hearing will be continued to our next meeting. Can I get one of you to please read this case into the record?
We should suspend the rules first to meet electronically, Violetta.
Okay, can I get a motion?
I move to that we conduct this joint meeting of the Evanston ZBA and Plan Commission electronically via Zoom due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Can I get a second?
A
Thank you,
second.
Matt. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, maybe then we can move on to the first case. The only case.
I can read it in. Map amendment and major variations, 2030 Greenwood Street. Plan development case 21 PLND 0001 and zoning board of appeals case 21 ZMJV 0019. Bohan Arnautovic, applicant, submits for a zoning ordinance map amendment pursuant to City Code Title 6 zoning to rezone property located at 2030 Greenwood Street from the I-2 General Industrial District to the MXE Mixed Use Employment District. The applicant also requests major variations for the following: 21 zoning units where 18 dwelling units are permitted, and building height of zoning code section 61344, building height of 4 stories at 38 feet where 3 stories at 41 feet is permitted, zoning code section 61347. The zoning board of appeals and plan commission make a recommendation to city council, the determining body for this case.
Is the respondent for this case here present?
Yes, my name is Josh Gross. I'm part of the developmental group. Boyan, who's our lead developer, is also here with us. But I will be presenting the proposed structure today to all of you, if that's okay.
Thank you. Would you like to explain your project?
Yes, absolutely. Would it be okay if I share my screen?
Is it okay with, can he share his screen?
It's currently disabled.
Either one of the planners could help you. Hold on.
Thank
You
you.
should have the ability to do that now.
Excellent. Let me share. Okay. Is that visible to everybody right now?
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent. Perfect. So as I mentioned, my name is Josh Gross. I am part of the development group for the 2030 Greenwood Street project. With us, we have our lead developer, Boyan, who is with us. But as I said, I will be taking you through this project. And unless there's any questions before we get started, I guess we can dive right in. So to give everyone an overview on what our proposal is for this project, is that we're looking to construct a multi-storied 24-unit apartment complex. This complex will be constructed of 2 buildings, building A, which will be at the north end of the property, and building B, which will subside just directly behind it. We have some renderings that I can show you a little next few slides so you can get a good visualization of that. Of the 24 units that we were proposing, 3 of these units will be 1-bedroom units, 21 will be 2-bedroom units, and we're very excited to be a part of the City of Evanston's affordable housing program and announce that we're going to allocate 2 of those 24 units to be IHO affordable units. In addition to that, we're also proposing 2 ADA accessible units. These 2 units will be on grade level and fully wheelchair accessible. So we're very excited to be a part of that program as well. To give an idea of the total size of the structure that we're looking to construct, the building footprint will come in just over 9,500 square feet. The total area, which also includes our first floor parking garage, which is completely covered, brings the total area of the structure to just over 36,000 square feet. And as mentioned, we will be having covered parking, and with this, we are bringing our total parking spots up to 39 from previous proposals, which were slightly less. Our apartment sizes, to kind of give a paint a picture, will range between 600 feet to 1,250 square feet. And our typical rent as of right now is ranging between $2 and $2.25 per square foot. We're also excited to announce that we are planning on building a structure that is eco-friendly and also energy efficient. For those unfamiliar with the area, this is the current state of the property. It is an unused, empty plot of land. Basically, this is it. And to give you an overview of the location, it's located between Hartley and Dodge, right on Greenwood Street. To our east, we have a storage facility. To our west, we have another apartment unit. And then to the north, we have residential housing. Now, before we get into the renderings, we met with the DAPR committee 2 weeks ago to go over our proposed plan. And one thing that we really wanted to address to them was the buildings that we're trying to create are ones that we want to be aesthetically pleasing to not only the neighbors, but also to residents that we are looking to attract. With that said, we wanted to create something that was very traditional, but also had some modern feels to it to keep up with the times. As mentioned, we want to create a building that is eco-friendly, economic, but also technologically up to date. So we're very excited to announce our structure A. So this would be building A, which would be sitting on the north end of our Greenwood property. Right here is where Greenwood Street would subside. This building right here would include our single bedroom units, as well as 2-bedroom units. This is also where our ADA accessible units would subside. So we'd have one bedroom and 1 2-bedroom units. Just to kind of give an overview on what we're looking at right here, to the west of the building is where that apartment complex is located. Here we will have a walkway which will give our residents and the neighbors access to our courtyard, as well as access to building B. On the east side is where our private driveway will be located. And if we take a quick trip down there, you can see here in the corner, that is our building A where we just were, and then we're driving down our private driveway. One thing I forgot to mention previously is we have a big contribution towards greenery for this property. We want to make sure it's very green, very aesthetically pleasing to not only our residents, but neighbors, guests, everyone who's driving down Greenwood. But as you travel down our private driveway, one thing I want you to take note is the structure of building B. It is basically built on 3 vestibules, which give access to 6 units. So this is where 18 of the 24 units will be located. And the other important part that we're very excited about is all of the parking is completely covered. So we will have tandem parking underneath building B, making all of our parking nearly invisible from the street view. So unless you are specifically looking to see cars and tilt your head at a specific angle, all these cars will be completely covered. They stick out right now just for the renderings, but the parking spaces are large enough to fit 2 full-size cars. So we're very excited about that. As we move on, so this is the east. So we're on the west side of the building facing east. This would be the front side of building B. This shadow right here, building A, would be located just on the left of your screen. But again, this would be where the walkway where our residents will have access to the front of their buildings, as well as have access to the courtyard, our gazebo, park benches, which will also be open to neighbors and other members of the community to utilize. This is a bird's eye view down, just to kind of get an idea of where things are laying out and how the property and buildings will sit. Again, here we have our building A, and then building B right directly behind it. As you can see, really this only viewpoint to cars would be very slightly, if you're coming from the east side on Greenwood Street. But again, this would be something you have to be looking about. And we got to this with the help of city staff and members of the DAPR committee and zoning. And it was a great recommendation. I think it really frees up the property and makes it look very nice. So this is an opposite view from that bird's eye, just to kind of get an idea of how deep everything goes in the courtyard and the greenery that we're looking to include in this project. Just to kind of give an overview of the site plan, I know we don't need to go into this in too much depth unless someone else would like to review deeper, but just to kind of give an idea of where everything's located. You can see we've got Greenwood right here. Here's building A. Building B will have those 3 buildings on the south side. I'm sorry, yes, on the south side of the property. As far as parking goes, we'll have our 2 ADA parking spaces right here, along with a 3rd parking space. And then the remaining parking spots, the remaining 36 will be located underneath Building B. As we get into the elevation, so Building A and Building B will actually be different heights. Building B, because it has the the 1st level parking, will sit higher than Building A. Building A will be the front-facing structure. So really anyone that's driving down the street, any neighbors, Building A is essentially all anyone will be able to see when you're facing the property straight on. Building A is coming in at just under 31 feet, which keeps it in par with most of the other structures in the area, and actually slightly shorter than several as well. As we go on and look through Building A, so this would be looking through Building A into Building B. Again, since we have that parking structure on that 1st floor, Building B is coming in at 40 feet. So we've got basically 9 feet for the parking garage, 10 feet for the 1st floor of apartments, so floor 2 and floor 3, and that top floor will be 9 feet. And then our architect has recommended us giving us about a 2 feet height lip for the top of the roof. This is just another view of that elevation, so you can see. So this would be the west view on the Building B. The parking garage would basically come up to this line right here, and then obviously would have the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd floor of apartments sitting on top. And then here's that opposite view, so the east elevation. So again, that parking garage coming in underneath, and then the first 3 floors of parking, bringing it up to 40 feet. So, you know, one thing that was really important to us is community, is family, is being neighborly. So when we attended the 2nd Ward meeting back in February, one of the feedbacks that we received from several neighbors was that concern of parking. We understood that parking is currently and has been an issue for current residents at the time, or current residents in the area, and they're concerned for how bringing on 24 additional units to the area would affect them. As mentioned, we're very excited about the recommendations and the work that we've done with the city team to come up with the current plan that we have, which has increased our parking to 39 spots. Our initial plan was much lower, then we brought it up to 28, and then with this 1st floor parking that we've come up with, we were able to bring it up to 39 spots, which is actually 13 over what is required. So we truly believe that 39 spots for 24 units with allows for ample guest parking, and should really alleviate any concern for us, our residents needing to utilize street parking, public parking, or even parking spaces provided by the city, even for pay. Our goal is to have all of our residents' guests being able to park on our facility, and again, in a way that does not create a visual nuisance, any noise issues, or any traffic hindrance to those in the area or in the neighborhood. The other concern that was brought up was traffic congestion. Obviously, with everything going on right now, we have not been able to get a great look of standard pre-COVID traffic patterns because we've been out of, school's been out for quite some time. But to kind of give an overall a view on how our tenants typically act, those that occupy our buildings that we've constructed are typically 30 to 50 years old. They are working individuals. And right now, obviously, I shouldn't say everybody, but most people are working remotely. So the need to travel to and from the office is very limited. Our thought, though, is hopefully once things return back to normal, and hopefully it is soon, because these individuals are working in offices, their time lapse will actually not really conflict with that of the school. Typically, most people are leaving our complexes and our buildings between 7 a.m. and 7 and 7:30 a.m. And not returning till after normal last bell, which is after 5 p.m. And believe that this should basically not conflict with that 8 a.m. to 2:40 start time and finish time for the high school. The other thing I'd like to call out is even with these time slots, our residents will be leaving as people are coming into the area, and vice versa at the close of school and close of business. So we're hoping that it doesn't create too much traffic congestion, and truly believe that it shouldn't have too much of effect in addition to the current traffic patterns. As we are joining the community, or hope to join the community, I should say, our plan is to be one with the neighbors. We want to be someone that is part of the team, part of the family, and contributing our part. We understand that we are the new kids on the block, but want to make sure that we are welcoming to everyone, and hope that we can be welcomed by those that are currently there and have been for many, many years. So part of the contributions that we would love to make, in addition to creating more patrons for local businesses, adding tax benefits for the city, which I think are all pretty the obvious ones. But what we're looking to do is
Unmuted, right?
I'm sorry. Okay. In addition to those, what we are proposing are new curbside landscape. We're proposing currently right now, we're estimating about 9 trees being added to Greenwood Street on our property line. And this is to offset the removal of one tree that, one cottonwood tree that would need to come down due to access for our private driveway. In addition to that, we are wanting to make a $1,000 contribution to the city of Evanston to plant new trees and greenery at their discretion. Also to help out with the neighborhood, because we are aware that parking has been an issue in the past. We would like to make a $1,000 contribution for parking signs in the area.
Excuse me, could you mute your microphone if you're not speaking, if you're not being asked to speak, please? Could our host mute everybody except Josh so we can hear him? Thank you, Josh. Go ahead.
No problem, no problem. So yeah, as said, we'd like to make a $1,000 contribution for parking in the area. In addition to that, after completion of our project, we'd like to replace all of our public sidewalks to make that clean, smooth, and grade level for pedestrians as they walk through the area. And then in addition to that, as mentioned previously, our 2 IHO affordable units and our 2 ADA accessible units. And then the reason why we're all here. So the reason why we're here is because the team of 2030 Greenwood is currently seeking a rezone property from that I-2 that we're currently zoned as to the MXE. This would allow us to construct this residential property. And then after that, we are looking for approval on our 24 dwelling units and then finally approval on the height of building B, which is currently 4 stories at 40 feet, where the code calls for 3 stories at 41 feet. So that brings us to my conclusion for what I've presented so far. Here's the information of our head developer, Boyan. If there's any questions after the fact, feel free to reach out to him or myself. But with that, I open it up to questions and comments, and yeah, that's about it.
Are you the only one presenting from your team, or is Bohan going to present?
I will be the only one presenting for my team.
Okay, thank you.
Chair Cullen, I will have a brief presentation from the staff's perspective, excuse me, that speaks a little bit more to the rezoning that is proposed.
Please, could you do that?
That pretty brief.
Okay.
All right, is everyone able to see that?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay, so as has been made apparent, we have a proposal for a map amendment and major variations for this project at 2030 Greenwood Street. I'll speak a little bit more to the map amendment that is proposed. This is for a single lot within this area. This particular lot was actually part of the adjacent lot to the east, but was subdivided, I believe, in 2018 or 2019. So it's just this property that is affected by the rezoning. As you can see, it is surrounded by I-2 zoning to the east and south and a little bit further to the west. To the immediate west is MXE, which is what is proposed for the new zoning. And to the north is R2, which is low density residential. So the I2 district, or general industrial, is basically the mid-range industrial manufacturing district for Evanston. The purpose is to provide sites for some light manufacturing and light industrial uses under controls that minimize any adverse effects on properties in nearby residential, business, or commercial districts. The proposed MXC, or mixed use employment district, that particular purpose statement is it's intended to, excuse me, address those distinctive areas in Evanston where manufacturing and industrial uses have coexisted with residential uses in a manner in which neither have been affected adversely. The MXC district will incorporate uses currently located in the area while also permitting those uses normally associated with manufacturing and industrial operations. The MXC district will also permit residential uses as is proposed this evening, and shall provide for the continuance through the requirement of adequate district-wide site controls designed to preserve the distinctive coexistence. So we do have another larger MXC district that is in the 5th ward and has a variety of different uses in it and is adjacent to other residential. So the purpose is kind of seen in that area as well. So there are a number of differences between the I2 and the MXC district. And this is regarding both permitted and special uses. The MXC itself provides for a few more uses, generally speaking, such as the residential uses. However, there are several of the uses that are more industrial or manufacturing in nature that are permitted by right in the I2 that either are not permitted or are a special use within the MXC. So this chart kind of lays out some of the changes within the two zoning districts with regards to bulk regulations. As you can see, the industrial district, while it does provide for more use of land, so to speak, able to go to the front yard, there is a lower FAR here, whereas there's a 1.5 FAR in the MXE. And then with the building height, we would go from 45 feet or 3.5 stories, whichever is less, to the lesser of 41 feet or 3 stories. And as we go into the other side yard, rear yard setbacks, there is some additional setback that is required within the I2, but that speaks more so to the uses that are proposed. And we wouldn't want those to have a greater impact on the surrounding areas that may be residential or a business district that is a less intense use. So staff does recommend that the Plan Commission make a positive recommendation to the City Council for this particular zoning district. We can revisit the standards for the map amendment once we get to the deliberation.
Okay. So now can we open it up for questions from the boards?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
I have a question. Excuse me. I have a question for the developer. It's about how the parking works. I understand the number of spaces, but how does it, unless I understand how tandems work also, and they're usually both spaces, front and back, are assigned to one party, because they control both spaces. So if they're not assigned to one party, which may be unlikely considering the unit mix, how does it work? How does it work with multiple users, possibly in one set of tandem spaces? How does visitor parking work with tandems?
Yes, thank you. So the way the parking is planned, so each unit will be assigned a parking space and basically a visitor's parking space. So the idea is that the residents' parking space will be the one furthest in, so furthest to the west, and then their visitors' parking space will be that one that has easy access in and out. So the idea is you're not going to have any visitors coming to you if you're not home. So when you pull in and then your visitors come in, they can pull in right behind you. They will most likely be leaving either at the same time as you or leaving after you. So then they have that free access to come in and out. And then the resident will then be able to enter and exit as they please their spot.
So in terms of resident parking, you have 24 units and what is it, like 19 parking spaces for the.
Correct, yeah, so essentially what we're doing is the idea is to have a very small fee per parking. And the idea for that is to hopefully basically eliminate the need for parking. It's not to have them go park elsewhere. The idea is that we have enough spots to basically cover everybody. What we've seen with our other properties is that not everyone has a car, not everyone is utilizing a car these days. So we believe that that this should be enough parking spaces for residents. And then with that extra parking spot allocated then to, since they are 2 bedrooms, if they have a partner or a roommate, whatever the case may be, they will be able to access that second spot. So whether it's a guest parking space or their second roommate, second resident, that's where that second spot will be allocated. So realistically, there will be, a few apartments that may not have a parking allocated, but in our experience, again, we've had zero buildings that had 100% need for parking per resident.
So my question, to piggyback on Commissioner Halleck's remark, is the parking spaces are for purchase, right?
They are for rent. Yeah.
Oh, they're for rent, so they'll pay for them. So what if someone buys one parking space and then someone else parks in front of them for guest space? I mean, how are you going to handle that?
Right. So every parking space, it's not a free for all. So essentially, every resident will be assigned a space. So for example, resident who's in apartment 101 gets assigned parking space 1, and their guest spot is 1A. And then 102 gets spot 2 and 2A, so on and so forth. So if someone were to park, let's say someone off the street or a resident, a neighbor in the area, or someone who's new to the area who doesn't even live in the complex, pulls up behind a resident and blocks them in, it's technically illegal parking. It's trespassing because we're not a public parking garage. We are not taking outside parking. The parking is strictly for our residents. They would notify management. We would notify a tow truck. No different than if it happened anywhere in the city of Evanston, the city of Chicago, city of Lincolnwood, wherever the case may be. Each person is allocated a specific spot and a specific guest spot. Anyone that's unauthorized parking in those is suitable to get towed.
Is it 24-hour management, or there's
Yes.
a 24-hour number?
It would be, we have a 24-hour management team, yes. So we would be on site very quickly to manage and handle any issues that could come up.
Thank you. Yes, Jill.
To stay on the parking, as I recall in the plan, the ADA units had parking directly outside of that rear entrance from the front building.
That's correct.
Was there also guest parking adequate for those numbers of units?
Yeah, so their parking, they've got the 2 ADA spots right outside. Then there's another long parking space, which will be utilized for guest parking. And then again, depending on how the layout of the apartments are and who needs parking, we're actually going to be loading the residents that need parking in building B. So building A, the idea is that building A will be for residents that most likely do not need parking.
Other questions?
Yeah, one of the other, another question about the units. The 1s and 2, you have 1s and 2 bedrooms. I just wondered if, because some of the comments that I read in the material was that maybe Dapper, I don't know, recommended that to lower the total unit count, you could have had 3 bedrooms, couple of 3-bedroom units in there. And I'm not sure that works with the plans that you have, but where did the 1s and 2 program come from? Did you do a market study? And
yeah, I mean, our goal is to so our original plan prior to all of this was to actually create, I believe it was 36 units. And then, after working with city staff, we got down to the 24. We felt that was the best number, the least dense number, but the one that utilized the space and the property to the maximum capacity. So essentially, the 1 and 2 bedrooms are there because it allows us to be at an economical price point. It fits the demographic that we're trying to attract to this property. But also, not to sound like a business person, but the financials make more sense for those types of properties, those types of bedrooms and apartment sizes. As we get into the larger apartments, the price points get more expensive, and they sometimes tend to get harder to rent out. And then just the economics don't make as much sense for this type of development.
Thank you. Commissioner Isaacs, you have your hand up. Could you unmute, please? Thank you.
Apologies, thank you. I have a question for staff. I'm interested in this situation where this lot was subdivided from the lot to the east. I understand from a from a legal lot line perspective that happened, but from a zoning perspective, why is the existing building from that lot, from the lot to the east, why isn't that being taken into account for this lot? Right? Wasn't like when that building was built, right? The zoning was used not only for that was not only used for that lot, but for the entire parcel, right? And it was owned collectively. And so now they're just selling off their side yard and trying to treat it as a separate zoning lot. Like what's the mechanism for separating the side yard from a zoning perspective?
Was it subdivided?
I'm sorry?
Is that your
Yeah,
question?
I can
Was
speak
it
to that. So
subdivided?
it was
Yeah.
subdivided, Peter. And the process for the subdivision to take place, you have to make sure that the new lot is compliant with the zoning ordinance. So that lot to the east, I wasn't part of the subdivision, but I'm assuming because it made its way through and got approved, that lot on its own without the lot in question now is zoning compliant.
Okay, so the
So
lot
it meets all the requirements for the I2.
So it passed the city's review from a zoning perspective that the lot to the east is a fully functioning separate zoning lot, and so that frees up this lot for this development.
Correct.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Linwall, did you have your hand up? You're muted. You're
No,
muted.
I didn't. Actually, I think the other commissioners have asked my questions, so I'm good.
Okay. Any other questions?
I do have a question just again for city staff. Is there any downside as far as the city is concerned to losing a parcel that is designated I2? Is there any concern about possible expansion from other buildings that in the area, the commercial light use that might be blocked off, or is that not a concern?
I can speak to that. Generally speaking, we have not really seen much in the way of expansion of existing businesses that are in the I2 that would have, at this point, probably a satellite location, as there are no other businesses that are within that stretch. And also we've seen, particularly in the West End manufacturing district, there are a pretty broad variety of uses that are there now. Probably to the point where they're starting to look a little bit more like a mixed light manufacturing or an mixed kind of district, but we still have some of the mainstays that are there. I mean, optimally, we would be doing a greater expanse of rezoning, but that would really come along with a comprehensive plan and a full kind of revamping and another look at this particular area and what uses are there, what uses are likely to be there in the future. So with this particular use, there really wasn't a concern that we would be taking away a much needed I2 zone site. And that the MXC does allow for some similar uses. It's just they may be required to have a special use in order to operate. And given where it's located, adjacent to a low-density residential district, MXC does make a little bit more sense than something that provides for heavier manufacturing.
Thanks.
Thank you. Other questions from the board?
I have a question.
Yes, Max.
Hi, Josh. Can you talk a little bit more to the sustainability and environmentalism aspects of this project? If I had to go back in time, I would consider that this space, is a really good opportunity for another kind of green space, and it's a little concerning to me that this project would get rid of that. It's detailed in the packet about how the 2 mature native trees are coming down, and that this project will have a significant impact on that. And I'm also noting that with the building footprint of 9,540 square feet, you're just underneath the threshold for this project to be subject to the green building ordinance at 10,000 square feet. So I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit to what environmentalism or sustainable aspects of this project is considering or trying to do in order to make up for that.
Absolutely, yes, thank you. So the actually only tree that will be coming down is the one located on the east side of the property, and that would be to make room for that private driveway. The other large cottonwood on the west side of the property is actually on our neighbor's property line. It just overhangs on ours. So really, we would not be asking it to come down, just for some trimming, just so that we can make way for our obviously our structure. And then as far as the sustainability and the greenery, I mean, we are trying to make a very conscious effort and a substantial investment to the property to bring a lot of that greenery back. We understand that it's a very open green space. It's a field. That's basically it. And it does have some trees on that west side of the property. So in addition to that, we want to bring in additional trees, additional plants, additional bushery to really bring it to life, bring it to have some purpose, to have it some life, and just really make it one curb appeal for our future tenants, but as well as for the neighborhood. And then, as I mentioned in the DAPR meeting, the goal for the courtyard along the west side is to be open to the public. We're going to have a gazebo. We're going to have park benches. By no means are we putting up fences, gates, and keypads. This is something that we want to make sure people take advantage of, especially if we're going to put as much of an investment into the property as possible in the outdoor space. We want to make sure it's getting used. So that's something that, as far as the greenery goes, and as far as the sustainability, I mean, everything that we're doing internally in the building is going to be eco-friendly. We're going to have high efficiency, all LED lighting. Everything's going to be new, basically state of the art, which is run on low energy, high efficiency. So the goal is to be something that is not just sucking energy and not wasting valuable resources, but one that's low cost to our residents, to our tenants, and basically something that is valuable to the neighborhood and to the community.
What do you make of the comments from Evanston Forestry in that final page of the packet about the non-feasibility of long-term tree growth along the east side?
So what our plan is for the east side, because that's where the storage facility is, and because we only have that 5-foot variance that we have to work on, 5-way setback that we have to work on. Obviously, we can't plant very large trees, but the idea is to still plant greenery there that can withstand the thresholds that we're given and withstand the barriers that we have, while still allowing our neighbors access to their building should they need tuck pointing, repairs, or whatever the case may be. So, with any project, there's always challenges and always obstacles that we have to overcome. That would just be another one that we'd work with our landscape architect, as well as those that we're purchasing the greenery and trees and shrubbery from, to make sure we're putting species and greenery that can withstand and have longevity in that space.
Thank you.
Max, that lot line to the east is also in a utility easement, so it really kind of limits the plant material you could put in there. Just a long-term feasibility if the utility company needed to dig that up for some reason.
Thanks, Kate. I recognize Commissioner Halleck.
Just along the lines of sustainability, you've got a lot of paving because of the drive that goes along the one side of the site. Would you consider, even in exchange, instead of some other benefits that you're offering, would you consider permeable pavers?
It's something we could consider. I know it hasn't come up in deep conversation, but it's definitely something, the team and I can discuss and see if it's something that that makes sense for the property.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board? Anybody else? I'd like to open up comment to the community. Is there anyone here from the community that would like to speak to this project? Ask the developer any questions?
Wait, Chair, I think Member Zordan had a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see you, Phil. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Could you just walk me through your plan for waste removal from the site?
Yes. I don't know if it's easier for me to share my screen again. 1 second, let me pull it up.
And on the topic, as I read in the packet, just to confirm that deliveries would all be from Greenwood Street.
Yes, 1 second here. Let me just pull this back up. Where did you guys go? Sorry about that. Here we go. Is this coming through?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. So our trash will be actually located here and here. That's our current plan for trash dumpsters. And then the driveway is actually 25 feet wide, which will give a dumpster I'm sorry, trash pickup trucks, then enough room to come in. They'll be able to back in. Our dumpsters will be on wheels, so they'll be able to pull them out of their little compartments, pull them in, remove the trash, and haul it away. Yeah, basically, does that answer your question?
Mm-hmm.
Pretty straightforward. And I'm sorry, the second question was?
It was covered in the packet, but just to confirm that your expectation is that deliveries would occur with the delivery truck parking on Greenwood.
No, so actually the goal is to not take up any deliveries parking spaces on Greenwood. The goal is for all deliveries to take place actually on our private driveway. Okay. So the goal is they pull in. Again, we do have a long driveway. So the thought is that your typical UPS, FedEx mail person will not be hauling up one dolly and then walking the whole distance, because that is a pretty long distance. So the goal would be for each person to stop at each building, essentially, make their deliveries, move on to the next vestibule, and make the appropriate deliveries there. So all the deliveries will be taking place on here. The goal is to take up 0 driveway space, 0 parking space on Greenwood, to take away from residents, public transportation, public driving.
Did we lose any diagonal parking on Greenwood with the proposed curb cut?
I don't know the exact number. I believe it's three spots will be removed to give us access to the driveway. But that would be it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for the developer? I have a few. I want to refer back to our staff memo where there's some conditions on here that they would like us to include. And I just want to ask you if you've completed your construction management plan.
That is in the works right now.
Okay. And, I'm sorry?
Question?
Question?
Yes. Can you see me or hear me?
Oh, are you Nicolette? Yes.
Yes.
I can
Yes,
hear you.
I live at the, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead, please.
Okay, I live on the 1400 block of Gray, and I've been there since 1962. and it's very dense. When the students come and you can't even, it's like a bottleneck and it takes forever to travel in that area during the day between like 8 in the morning till about 9, and then from 4 to 3 to about 5 o'clock. Also, we have a problem with parking. We have to pay for permit parking because there's not enough parking. Even on our block, we have to park on Greenwood. So we're going to be out of parking when they come there. And then also there's an area that's a bottleneck with density because there's an apartment. Okay, they're talking about bringing in apartments, and we're a residential area with kids and everything like that. So they're going to be bringing in 1 and 2 bedroom apartments with younger people. So that's a concern of the community too. We're concerned about that. And we're also dealing with gentrification. You know, it's a predominantly African-American neighborhood. And basically, most of the wealth in this country has been mail distributed to white people. So when basically they come in, there's going to be another 25 units. And I will tell you right now, when they move in, a lot of times they don't even speak to us. So it's very, very, I'm bringing that up because I'm trying to be authentic. I didn't want to bring it up at first, but it is a concern of our neighborhood. You know, that is a concern. And then one more thing, someone asked a question about why there was the people that lived to the east of this did not build. Well, when I was growing up, the guy that owned that building where the storage is, he offered it to us free because it's a sinkhole. And that's why no one built on there, because there's a lot of water there. It's a sinkhole area. And I'm just bringing up a lot of different things because being there since 1962, I'm kind of aware of the changing, the demographics, the traffic, and I would ask that you guys do a study on the traffic because it is really highly congested during the day while the students are there. And there's no parking. That's why we need permits to park over there. So we're already taxed with parking. So when they come in and they get rid of some of the parking, there's going to be an issue.
Sir, would you like to respond?
Yes, thank you. Hi, Nicolette. Thank you for your comment. I don't know if you saw the earlier part of my presentation, but I do remember you from the meeting at the ward back in February, so I appreciate your continued participation. But so as far as the parking goes, we are allocating 39 parking spaces for our 24 apartments. So our initial plan was actually far less, and it was actually a parking lot that was going to be completely exposed to the public. So it's actually with the recommendation of the city and the city staff that we've been working with throughout this, who's been actually fantastic and has made a lot of recommendations on the neighborhood's behalf, where we came to this current proposal. So our hope and thought is that the additional spots that we're proposing, so the total of 39, which is actually 13 over code, will actually limit any need for our residents to seek parking outside of our complex. That goes for residents, that goes for their guests as well. And as far as the congestion goes, as mentioned, our typical demographic for our buildings and the buildings we construct are on the older side. And I say that being in that demographic, so it's that 30 to 50-year-olds. And typically, as of right now, most people are working from home. They're working via Zoom and remotely. So the traffic pattern should be considerably lighter. But once things do return back to normal, we see that most of these people are leaving before 7 or around 7 o'clock and coming back after closing bell hours. So the idea is that most of this should not coincide with the typical traffic patterns of students coming and leaving the high school. And then on top of that, the idea is that our traffic patterns would actually be opposite of that of the high school. So as the students are coming towards the high school, our residents will actually be leaving the area. And then as students are leaving the high school, that's when our residents would be coming back home. So that cross of traffic patterns should really limit any type of bottleneck or congestion going in a specific direction.
Okay, Devon, did you have a question?
And then as far as our neighborhoods, we want to, like I said, one of my biggest values, one of Boyan's biggest values is neighborhood, it's community, it's family. That's something we're all about. We will be reading all the applications of all potential applicants for the building. And we want to make sure that this is something that's, you know, family, it's friendly, it's something that we can all be a part of. So we're going to do our very best to make sure that all of our tenants are people that are someone that we respect and respect their values, and they respect ours, and want to be one with the community. So that's our goal for that. Obviously, I can't speak to the people we haven't met yet or received their applications for, but I want you to know that our goal is to create a community that is part of the existing community, and hopefully you guys will embrace us, and then our community will also become part of the current neighborhood.
Did that answer all of your questions, Nicolette?
Except, oh, okay, the sinkhole, how are they going to deal with that water that's going to be coming in from, or that excess water?
Yep. So we have civil engineers, we've got structural engineers, we've got every single engineer under the sun working on this project, where we have created plans which we've presented to Dapper, and we'll be continuing to present to the city, which should alleviate any water problems. We have underground sewage, we've got bellies that will be absorbing the water, and for drainage, we'll be accessing points for the current city pipelines. So that way we can make sure that everything is by code, everything is by safe, because at the end of the day, I'll say this selfishly, the last thing we want is any issues on our own property, which causes damage to our building.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, we're going to make sure we're doing this the right way, and inevitably making sure it's safe for the rest of the community and the neighbors.
Okay, there's another resident here. She came.
Yeah, I had to come because I could not log on to the Zoom meeting. Or is it Zoom? Yes. So I just also wanted to let you all know that it was very difficult to get onto this Zoom meeting. And I know some other people are trying to get on. They have called me and they cannot. So
could you state your name and address for the record, please?
I'm Jovan Ransom. I'm sorry. Nice to meet you. I had concerns with the property, actually kind of like it's dwarfing, like we're the little dwarfs, and you know, like it's just so big, so immaculate. And I just feel like, you know, it's kind of like it was mentioned before, it's an imposing type of property. And so another thing I had is as far as screening, like for your renters and things of that sort. I have children, and we're talking about maybe 50 people, how many, about 40 something adults, possibly. Are you going to screen your renters? Because I am fearful. I am fearful now of my children being outside and playing. I mean, that's just a tremendous amount of people at one time.
Understood. I'll answer the second question first. And the answer is absolutely yes. We will screen and do background checks of all of our tenants. And again, I will say this selfishly, so that way you understand. It is in our benefit to make sure we're not bringing in tenants that are destructive, that are criminals, in a sense that will cause chaos or anarchy in any type of way, because the last thing we want to do is create damage to our own building. So, and therefore we're going to do certain things to make sure that we are bringing in the correct people, people that are respectful, people that have good values, again, that people that we believe will be good tenants, good neighbors within our building, as well as to those of the community. So by saying that, yes, the goal is to create people, to create tenants that will be respectful to you guys as neighbors. So the idea that you are scared for your children says a lot about you, that you are probably a very good parent. But I will hope that we can relieve those stress to let you know that you are in good hands. We are going to be doing the things that need to be done to make sure that we are protecting the community, protecting our people, our residents, as well as those in the neighborhood. And then as far as the size of the building, the building that you actually are going to see the most is building A. That's the one that sits at the front of the property. That one is actually only going to be 31 feet tall. So that's actually going to be shorter than most of the buildings and some of the single family homes across the street. I'm sorry. Oh, apologize. That's when I jumped in. So it is actually going to be on par with a lot of the buildings in the area, and that larger building will actually be pretty hidden in comparison. It's one of those things that from the right angle, you'll be able to see it. But for those walking on Greenwood, from your homes, you really shouldn't get much of a view of building B because it's going to be set back behind building A, which again will take up most of that view.
Okay, and how close is the building on Greenwood to the street? To Greenwood, sorry.
It would be 25 feet back from the street. So whatever, that's the variance that it's allowed. So we are making sure we're following all rules and regulations.
Okay, that was a concern of mine, the lighting, because it's so dark and dimmy over here, and
Understood.
we just don't get any light.
Yep, I understand.
Is there lighting in front of your building, Josh?
Like natural street lighting, or is she referring to sunlight, or is she talking?
I was talking about the sunlight. We
okay.
actually have a dark block. It's a very dark block because of the trees and everything like that. And then your building would be imposing some of the sunlight. It may not make sense, but it does.
No, I understand. I understand what you're saying. Off the top of my head, I can't speak to how the building will affect the sunlight because I don't know where it is in respect to your building. But again, what I would say is it is in line with the neighboring buildings, and it's actually shorter than the neighboring building to our west. So however your building would be affected by our neighbor to the west, it would be better than that, if that makes sense, because we will be shorter than them.
Okay.
Thank
it sounds good. I have one more question. I'm sorry.
Okay.
One more, real quick.
No problem.
As far as your demographic, you said you're looking for a specific demographic. Like, how can you assure us? Because I'm also concerned about the property value and everything like that. Like, I want to be here for the rest of my life. I don't want to be moved out. I don't want my property taxes to go up. I also would like to see people that look like me around here. I've noticed a big change, which is okay. But I'm saying now we're talking about a whole nother 24, 48, 48 people moving in. I'm just estimating.
Right.
Will they look like me? Will we see that? Because I mean, you can say that right now, but I just feel like there needs to be some type of internal agreement that you're not, because eventually what's going to happen is we're going to move out. We're going to be pushed out. You may not see it like that, but historically, that's what happens when units like yours move across the street.
No, and I 100% understand your concern. When I say that our target demographic, it's not that we're targeting these people, this type of age group. That's just what we found has gravitated to these types of buildings that we build. And it's specifically age group. It's like I said, it's 30 to 50-year-olds, and it's working individuals. As far as race, class, anything else, gender, that is that's not up to us. It's illegal for us to determine that and say we're only going for a certain race, a certain gender, a certain demographic. We are open to applicants that meet our criteria, and that is that they are, they pass a background check, and they are able to financially afford the apartments that we're renting. And again, because we are trying to be on the economical side, we're hoping that this opens it up to as many people as possible.
And what's economical?
So right now we are looking at about $2 to $2.25 per square foot for rent, which is
what's your square footage?
Our 1-bedrooms are going to be approximately 650 square feet. Our 2-bedrooms will be about just over 1,200 square feet.
So that would be 3 times 6 would be about 1,800 a month?
No, not 3, 2, because it's $2 to $2.25.
I'm rounding it off.
Okay, well, that's a big round. You're making me look bad then.
Okay.
So again, we want to be open.
So
we
much.
want to make sure it's everyone's.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for your participation in this public
Nicole,
hearing.
just to say something, Nicole, I'm Boyan, I'm the developer. You will see me there every day. You're more than welcome to come by and talk to me. Any suggestions or concerns, okay?
You can't miss him. He's about 6 feet tall, or 6 feet 6 inches tall. Just come grab him. He's a big.
Did you say 6 feet 6?
I'm scared.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much.
If I may, hello.
Let me move on. What's your name? Did you put your name in the chat?
Yes, my name is Tanny Terrell. I'm coming up under my daughter's name. but I'm
Okay.
at 2115 Greenwood, directly across the street.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
I too have some concerns. Hello, Nikki.
Hey.
My concerns is, of course, anytime you have rental, you have not the same concerns as you have with homeowners. Homeowners have a tendency to show pride in ownership. Renters are there only for a short period of time. And as Nikki pointed out, she's been here, her family, since the 60s. My family has been here since the 80s. We now have people who are aging. We have people who are disabled. We have all kinds of things going on that those of us who have been here and invested in this community for a long time, we recognize. There is a lot of concern for the parking, but we have come to recognize that just as far as a matter of common courtesy, I park in front of my house, you park in front of your house, so on and so forth. We have come to be able to live with the businesses in the area because they're here Monday through Friday. The weekends, they're gone. We have our peace and tranquility the weekend. Now you have this large apartment complex with renters, with their run over guests on the weekend. And you're talking about, oh, everybody's going to have a space. Okay, now you're going to have parties, whatever going on over there. You're going to have all these people walking around that nobody in the area is familiar with. We are familiar with our neighbors. We are familiar with the faces. And no disrespect to you, the builders, you're looking for a monetary gain. We're looking for continued peace of mind. This is not being taken into consideration when you pull a complex of that size in this small residential area. If you look here on Greenwood, there are 5 houses, period. You have a few houses on Gray on each side of the street. You have houses over to Hartree, but now you're going to be inundated Greenwood with renters, and it's all for financial gain. We all want a piece of the rock. We all want financial freedom, but my concern is you're putting too many people in a small area, and clusters of people breed contentment, especially people who don't have pride of ownership because they're renting. Okay, you sign a 1 or 2 year lease, then you're gone. Okay, we've been here for generations. We have a vested interest into the community. So I just wanted to point that out, that when you come over here and you build and you go home over to Highland Park or wherever you are, we're still here in Evanston. We still have to live. We still have to come and go. We still have to look out for our own. And nobody on this call is stupid. This is 2021. Look at everything that happened in 2020. People are taking off their mask and they're showing their true colors, whatever it is. And I do not want to be run out of my neighborhood because somebody else is looking to pad their pockets. And please, believe me, no disrespect, but I have vested my entire life into my home and raising my children. And I do not see how a rental complex is going to bring that same pride of ownership right across the street from me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. What I will say is I understand your concern. I understand your concern and your points brought up by renters versus homeowners. The one thing I'd like you to consider and think about is us as the builders, we are the owners as well. So we'd like you to consider us as your neighbors in addition to the renters. And our goal is to be part of this community for a very long time. Our goal is to be on site. As Boyne mentioned, he's going to be there every day when this thing is getting built. You are going to see him. You can't, like I said, you can't miss him. You are going to see him every day when you leave, every day when you come home. And that's going to be forever. I have always had an interest in Evanston. I have always wanted to be a part of Evanston, and I think this is a way to do it. Again, where I can't speak to our residents that don't exist at the current moment. What I can do is speak to Boyan. I can't speak to myself and the rest of our team. And this is something that we care a lot about, okay? We care a lot about. And we want to, again, we understand the concern, we understand the fear that you guys have, but you know, I want you guys to know that you are in good hands. You can trust us. We are good, honest people, and want to make sure we're doing what's best for the community and best for the building. And yes, this is a business decision on our end. It is a financial decision, but one that we hope makes sense. And again, it only makes sense if there's longevity to it. This doesn't make sense if it's a short-term play. This is something that we're seeing for decades to come. So we want you to be familiar with our faces, recognize us as your faces, and where we might not live on site, want you to consider us as part of the neighborhood and part of your neighbors as well.
And also just to add that we will be the management company. We are not going to be hiring a third party. So all our tenants will be able to reach us at any point in time.
Yeah, as well as the neighborhood. So if there are any ever issues, you guys will all have, we'll gladly pass around our information. And if there's ever issues, you call one of us. And, like I said, we're not too far away.
Our number will be on the front of the building, our cell phone number. So all my properties that we have, that Josh and I have, we all have our cell phone numbers on the front of the building. That tells you everything about us, I hope.
Thank you so much. We're going to move on to other comment. I saw hands up from Commissioner Hugo and Lonnie Porter. Would you like to speak? Commissioner Hugo, you don't want to speak?
I must have inadvertently put my hand up. I apologize.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, Mr. Porter, you had your hand up earlier.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Please.
Okay, so I own the building to the east, to the west of this project. I don't know if you guys are that familiar with the neighborhood or not, but
Yes, sir,
my building. All right, so my building used to be a steel, and we converted it. We bought it in '05, and we converted it into apartments, and we've been here ever since. And I live on the property. I think since our first introduction to this project, they've done a great deal of improvements. Instead of knocking down all our trees and the large tree next to us, it sounds like they're keeping the cottonwood next to us. Is that saying?
Yep.
So that's a big improvement. That's really a lot better than the original plan, where they were much closer to our building.
Correct.
Saying that, there's a couple of things. I mean, one of the things when they make these applications is that you're not hurting any of the neighbors. The building being this tall is definitely going to hurt my building, my residents, because it will block the sun from the east in the morning, also knock out our view. The 4 stories is high, and also, do you have elevators?
I'm sorry, you cut up there. What was that?
You have elevators.
No, we're not an elevator building.
Okay, so this would be walk up 3 floors from the garage.
Correct.
If you live on the top story, yes.
Okay, and they're 2-bedroom apartments, 1s and 2s. So you're not just carrying up the groceries for yourself, you're carrying the groceries up for whoever you're living with. Not so easy in today. I'm just saying this is an observation.
Understood.
But also, I think the parking, which you've gone back and forth with, is not realistic in our neighborhood. Maybe in a more condensed area or something, people don't use as much parking. But here, basically in our building over the past 10 years, almost every adult has had their own car. In your units, there may not always be 2 adults, but most of the time I think there would. You might even have a kid who drives a car. That's an issue. The other thing is when you put your road in on Greenwood, it's not just about the road knocking out parking spaces that are there, it's the visibility on both sides. You lose a lot more spaces. I think it's going to be 8 or 9 are going to be missing. Those are spaces that the neighborhood uses. So if you're talking about helping the neighborhood and being good to the neighborhood, it would be nice if someone would consider that impact.
So Lonnie, thank you for your feedback. We are actually removing only 3 parking spots. That means 7 will be left on the property.
Yeah, maybe those are actual spots, but you'll see that you have to have non-parking 15, 20 feet in each direction because visibility for that road. I mean, someone in planning here should know that. I don't know that, it's not like I have such a monopoly on that knowledge. It's not just the width of your road, it's to the side east and west. You're going to have to knock out a bunch of spots so people can see your cars coming in and out. And this is a lot of cars and it's a lot of people. The neighbors have talked about between my project and yours, we're bringing in it's about 50 apartments right into the middle of this block. That's a lot of people. My project, we have 27 units. About half of them are 1-bedrooms, and we have like 52 parking spaces inside. So our parking really doesn't do much to the neighborhood. But I think also on your garages, are there garage doors or that's just open?
The tandem parking is large enough where we don't need garage doors. So there won't be any noise, there won't be any access sound for that, if that's what you're concerned about.
I don't know, I just think that's strange because then, so you have a cold floor on that first floor apartment.
I mean, no, I understand. I mean, we're working with our, we're working with our architects, with our engineers. It's, you know, it shouldn't be a problem, but I understand your concern.
Okay, because like in our building, our garage floor is heated, radiant floor heat. It's very effective. And so our garage is heated. So then the people on the first floor above it start with the heated floor that's like 50, 55 degrees. So, and that turns out to be very efficient for them and the garage being heated.
Right.
Maybe it's expensive. I don't know what it would be in your building, but there would be something to look into.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
One last point that I brought up last time is in your building, you have balconies and they're facing our building. It's a little weird for our units, the back of our units. So the kitchen and the bedrooms are in the back and your units will be looking into them. Do you know how far setback you are from ours?
45 feet. 45 feet. We have 25 feet between, and then we have about 20 feet to you. With including all the trees in between that we are not planning on taking down.
Okay, so I mean, if I was designing it, I would think you would want the balconies to the east. So they have an unobstructed view, they have the sunrise light, and they're not looking into our units. But I don't know, I mean, it's not up to me, I'm just making these suggestions. I don't know if the city is gonna step in on any of this stuff. Other than that, I wanna say it's a lot better than where you started. And once we get through this war, I'll be a good friend of yours and help you any way I can.
I appreciate that. Thank you,
Lonnie.
Lonnie.
We're looking forward to a great relationship.
Okay. Is that okay, Nikki?
Okay, any other residents have anything else to say? Anybody? Okay, we're gonna close the record and just have comment from the board. Anybody on the board? Everyone take your turn and tell us what you think of this project.
One, if I may,
Please,
Commissioner Cullen. I believe that we are, Megan, you can let me know if I'm off track here, but do we have to offer a right of the neighbors to rebut any of the testimony that they've heard today for map amendment?
For the map amendment, we don't tend to have that. Let me confirm. It's usually something that we have for a larger planned developments.
Yeah, it's page 13 of our rules. It says it's just with respect. Maybe corporation counsel can step into if they have it handy, but the section only talks about public hearing procedures, and then it just references a petitioner's case. And actually it says, okay, persons or groups with an ownership interest in property within 1,000 feet in the case of unique cases and planned developments in each direction of the subject property. Maybe our old
that immediately said unique uses and planned development, so that's not.
Yeah, okay. So it was our old rules that had the it was a 500 feet for one group, and then 1,000 feet for planned developments. Okay. All right. Commissioner Cullen, thank you for for giving me that time to make sure that we were doing everything we needed to do. Please continue.
Thank you. Okay, members of the board, comments on this proposal? Anybody? Jill, go ahead.
Just for clarification, are we discussing them consecutively or collaboratively?
I think what's going to happen here, and I don't know that this is correct. I think they need to, the plan commission needs to vote on the map amendment, right? And then we're going to move forward into our standards for the zoning variations. Is that correct? Okay.
Correct. So it may make sense for the commission to deliberate first and then the zoning board to deliberate and then vote, if that would make it easier procedure wise instead of everyone.
Okay, I'll stand down. You guys go ahead with your map amendment.
Thank you, Chair Cullen. All right, commissioners, comments on the map amendment. I mean, from a use standpoint, you know, we're looking at changing it to the exact same use as the property to the west. And ultimately, I mean, Ms. Jones, that's really all we're looking at here, right? Our job here is only with respect to the map amendment, and I suppose at the same time, you know, understanding that it's going to be residential, but really the nuts and bolts of what's being built, that's not really within our purview, right? That's the ZBA. The ZBA is looking at that, and
that's correct.
We have somewhat blinders onto that because that's their job, right?
Correct. So Plan Commission will be deliberating on and voting on the map amendment. Though I do appreciate the contributions to the overall discussion, and having an understanding that it will be residential. But yes, Plan Commission sticks to map amendment, and then the zoning board will deal with the major variations that are proposed.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so commissioners, with that with that understanding, do you have any questions or comments or any points of discussion with respect to this this amendment? All right, hearing none.
Linwall, it looks like you're muted.
Oh, I'm sorry, I can't see everyone's.
I'm sorry,
face.
and it was my fault. I was muted. But I think that the change to the MXE district really kind of opens up more possibilities for uses that are not as industrial in nature, and so a little more compatible with the nearby residential units. And you've already got an MXE lot to the west, so that's kind of my thought.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else?
Yeah.
All right. Why don't we? Oh, Commissioner Hugo.
I would agree with what Commissioner Lindwall just said. I think it does take us more in the direction of preserving the character of the neighborhood than not. And so I would agree with what she has just said.
Okay. All right, Ms. Jones, can you put up the standards? Okay, the standards for map amendment. One, whether the proposed amendment is consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the comprehensive general plan as adopted and amended from time to time by the city council. Well, we're changing it to MXE, which, like has been pointed out by other commissioners, is immediately adjacent to this project. I think we heard testimony from Ms. Jones. saying that MXE with residential and some industrial mixed together is not uncommon in the city of Evanston. That there's another area where the same is happened and is happening. And so I don't think, I see this as a satisfied standard. Any comments or disagreements from the commissioners? All right, hearing none, I'll move on. Whether the proposed amendment is compatible with the overall character of existing development in the immediate vicinity of the subject property. I think we've already gone through this again, that as from a map amendment perspective, changing this to MXE isn't going to change the overall character of the neighborhood. All right, whether the proposed amendment will have an adverse effect on the value of adjacent properties. Well, there's an MXE to the west. To the east is industrial, and well, that's the storage facility. And I don't think we heard any testimony, or the owner of that property has not made any objections. And all the other properties to the north are all residential, which it appears this property will be as well. Adequacy of public facilities and services. This property is already serviced by public facilities and services, and it's not. The intended use upon the amendment isn't of such a nature that that the public facilities and services available will be unable to serve the property. Okay, with that, any other comments or questions, or do we have a motion from one of the commissioners with respect to this amendment?
I'll move that the standards are for the map amendment are satisfied, and recommend approval of the proposed map amendment.
will second.
Your motion approved by Linwell, and Westerberg seconds. Ms. Jones, can you call roll for the vote on the motion? I presume, based on our discussion thus far, that there's no desire for further discussion on this amendment. All right, Ms. Jones, please.
Commissioner Halleck,
Yes.
Commissioner Hugo,
Yes.
Commissioner Linwell,
Yes.
Commissioner Isaac,
Yes.
Commissioner Westerberg.
Yes.
Okay, that is unanimous approval or recommendation for approval.
All right, with that, I will hand over the reins back to Chair Cullen.
Thank you so much. I'm going to go through our major variation standards, and then we are going to do a roll call vote at the end, board. So the major variation standards, for the ZBA to recommend approval of a variance, the ZBA must find that the proposed variance, A, will not have a substantial adverse impact on the use, enjoyment, or property values of adjoining properties. The staff believes that this standard has been met. Staff believes that the proposed development is contextual in mass, bulk, and height, and that the proposed site and neighborhood can support the additional density, and the properties to the east and south are industrial/commercial in nature, while the property to the west is provided adequate relief through a generous landscaped setback, and that the proposal provides adequate transition between multifamily and single-family uses with the appropriate street-facing orientation and engagement with the street. As such, staff believes that the likelihood of adverse impact to adjoining properties is minimal. Okay, standard B is in keeping with the intent of the zoning ordinance. Staff believes that this standard has been met. The proposal meets the goals of the comprehensive general plan, promotes the health and well-being of Evanston's citizenry through the provision of additional housing, and increases and diversifies the city's tax base. Okay. C, has a hardship or practical difficulty that is peculiar to the property. The staff believes that this standard has been met. The width and length of the lot provides unique challenges for the accommodating vehicular access, parking, and buildable areas. The proposed variations provide for a better built fabric than otherwise compliant alternatives, including decreased open space and surface parking. D, the property owner would suffer a particular hardship or practical difficulty as distinguished from a mere inconvenience. The staff believes that this standard has been met. Although compliance with both density and building height are theoretically possible, a particular hardship exists as the cost of the land and associated construction could likely not be recovered with a reduction in density capable of facilitating surface parking, desired open space for both development and neighborhood as a whole, and on-site affordable units. The staff believes that the proposed zoning relief provides a balance between adequate development potential, return on investment, and contextual and quality built fabric, greatly improved from alternatives which were explored. E, is not based exclusively upon a desire to extract additional income from the property or public benefit to the whole will be derived. The staff believes that this standard has been met. The additional income derived from 2 additional units shall be considered by the board and weighed against the proposed public benefits offered. Specifically, the board should consider if it would be more appropriate and advantageous for the development to have a reduced unit density with either larger units in square footage or units of a higher bedroom mix. Both alternatives would result in a reduction or negation of the request, but likely increase the rent structure of the remaining units proportionally. In either scenario, the likely increase or decrease in overall income would be negligible. Okay. F, does not have a hardship or practical difficulty that was created by any person having an interest in the property. Staff believes that this standard has been met. The property was platted to the existing size prior to the current ownership. G, is limited to the maximum change necessary to alleviate the particular hardship or practical difficulty. The staff believes that this standard has been met. The minimal alterations requested permit better built fabric than it could otherwise be accommodated, specifically the request for building height. Recommendation. The staff recommends that the Plan Commission review the facts presented and make a positive recommendation. So can I have a motion, please, from one of our members? And there are conditions, I'll read them to you. Anybody?
Do it. I'm just pulling it up.
Okay, Joe.
I move that in case number ZBA 21ZMJV-0019 2030 Greenwood Street, that the Zoning Board of Appeals recommends to the City Council approval of the major variations with regards to total residential units and building height.
Okay, there are conditions. It says that their construction management plan is required prior to the issuance of building permit. 2, the rooftop mechanicals shall feature sound attenuating devices or be screened to limit the noise pollution. 3, the applicant continues to work with city staff to develop proper materiality and design of the proposed structures. And 4, the applicant continue to work with the city staff to develop an adequate landscape plan. 5, the applicant can explore the viability of reducing the degree of variation request by providing additional family size units. And 6, substantial compliance with the documents and testimony on record. Can we have a second? Can one of my board members please second?
I'll second it.
All in favor? Oh, I'm sorry. Don't say anything. Cade, call the roll.
Chair Cullen.
Aye.
Member Zordan.
Aye.
Member Miranchev.
Aye.
Member Pucktall.
No.
So it's 3-1. The rules do dictate that if there's not 4 concurrent votes, that it's continued. This case will be continued to the next zoning board of appeals meeting.
Okay. Thank you so much, Josh. We'll see you at the next zoning board of appeals meeting. And I do believe that is it April 20th, Cade?
I believe it is April 20th.
Okay, that's when we'll see you again. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you everyone for your time. Have a nice evening.
Have a nice evening. Okay. Other business of this body? Is there other business? Then I will entertain from anyone a motion to adjourn.
So
Anybody?
moved.
Seconded.
Seconded.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming this evening. Have a nice rest of your evening.
All right, take care.
Good to see everybody.